update here on Mara and Mara's liquidity currently. Just looking past, we've got some loose liquidity here at the moment after this bounce here. Just want to see whether that's related to the indexes or the internals of Mara and Bitcoin. So I just wanted to look first at the positioning behind in the open interest to see what that's telling us at the moment. So I'm just going to switch to this other screen, and here in Mara we can see this brown here is DPI, so this is dark pool index buying as a percentage of total volume, and high DPI shows that there's an accumulation, or in this case here at this top here, this is probably a distributive high, so this is a larger market maker buying back from a smaller market maker. Then we've sort of gone along to the par and we've started to see a build here, and we see it in both this and the Bitcoin proxies. We can see here that the price, if I look at this line down here at $12.50, $13, has been about the same for a period of time, but we've now got a higher gamma, which is GEX here, which is the gamma of open interest, a dollarized measurement of gamma. And that's suggesting that we have a larger positioning at the moment, long Mara, and that could be built up by two things. It could be built up by an increase in calls or a decrease in puts in the way that we measure GEX. And so it's quite obvious if we have a look here at this matrix. Oh, I've gone too far. Just let me reload this. I do apologise. If we just look a little bit closer here, we can see here that we've had, this is the puts over here, this is the high delta puts, and over here is the high delta calls in the green, so red is puts, and we can see we've had a closing, a substantial closing, as this becomes lighter in colour, that is the closing of puts, and we've had an increase in calls in the money, and this is where I look for long positions, and we can see here quite a substantial difference. We're looking at 280,000 positions short or puts, down to 120, less than half, and we've had an increase of longs from 37,000 to 48,000. So that gamma increase that we can see over this price line around the 1250, 1280 mark, this gamma increase here is more long positions. So they're quite bullish. There's some suggestion that it's just retail that are bullish. I don't know. I think that there's a little bit of positioning as a long trade. I don't know what the short trade is, but I think there's a little bit of positioning into the miners, that some money within the United States might roll into the miners, and that there's a play there. And again, this is just the same matrix, but we're looking at a much larger, more refined data set. And here I'm looking at the short dated data, and again we can see that the short dated data, being 0 to 30 DTEs, has gone from heavy hedging, much more, and here this is out of the money calls. So if I just went and I made this an out of the money position, if I went from 0 to 0.4, we can see that this positioning has really lightened up. So this was sold calls, and the sold calls has picked a bottom in Mara at about the 4th of April. And if I just quickly flick back to that other screen, we can see that here is the 4th of April, and that is that Friday, and that is about when the bottom was set. So having a look at what's happening during this current loose little bit of liquidity, we'll look into in a second. We'll just flick back and we'll have a quick look at the where Bitcoin is sitting. And Bitcoin's a similar sort of situation. And Bitto is the proxy that I'm using here, as I have a stock price on it in my data set, and we can see again at about the same level we have now got a higher gamma than we did around the 13th of March, although the price is very similar. And if we have a look again, we can see that here we've got 32,000 long positions as opposed to 23,000 long positions, and here in these long dated we've got 290 to 270,000 shorts, and we're down to 170. This bottom here is most likely sold puts, and the reason that people are selling puts at the moment is they're taking benefit of the high IV. So this is something very specific to these sort of markets, that people tend to sell puts Not everyone, but a lot of people sell puts to gain that increased monetary gain in their options as the price rises north. So but Bitcoin is bullish too. We'll just go and have a look at the Bitcoin over the weekend. Bitcoin over weekends is a very good way to understand our indicators, and that is because there's not anything else in the liquidity indicators that's affecting it. Bitcoin obviously is a volatility layoff for institutional players. Most of the Bitcoin and crypto has been a play all of its life for market makers to lay off, and about I think 85 or 90% of the ownership of Bitcoin is from institutional players who use it as a way to lay off against the indexes. So if we look at Bitcoin here, I'm looking here in the 10 minutes. This is the end of Thursday's trading. Just let me change this to the right time zone. Sorry, I was in an Aussie time zone. So here is the end of Thursday's trading. Sorry, this is the end of Thursday's trading here. Oh God, I'm sorry about this. This is the end of Thursday afternoon's trading in the United States, and we've had quite a build here. We've had quite a nice tightening of liquidity, and we've had this price discovery. After the markets the lit markets have closed, we can see that we've got a much looser here. We can see in the irregular liquidity, we've got a much higher average of liquidity landing above into the loose area, which is we are going to see price pullbacks. And then if we look at more localized times of trading, we can see here that we've had tight liquidity, and then we've had some price increase. So you could have watched this tightening, and on a time zone down in the minute or 2 minute, it would have given you the opportunity to play the long trade in this bottom here. I won't go to at length through it in this video, but really one of the things that you have to understand is the effect of all of the different indexes at the moment has all gone to one. As we've had less liquidity, both Bitcoin and all of the stocks, individual stocks, have much higher correlations to index and VIX volatility than they do to their own liquidities. So inherently you have to look at the indexes when you want to trade any particular ticker, and the index movements and the movements of VIX in their different time periods will allow you to use this as a much better scalping tool. If you want to scalp a ticker at the moment, I would be using the indicators much more as a guidance of when to buy, when is a good time to buy, both using open interest and the other things like DPI, dark pool index, to tell us whether other people are getting long, and that's always a good indicator of a bit of groupthink, and it makes it more likely that a price will rise. So as we went into the weekend with Mara, we had oscillating liquidity. We'd had a good tight period of liquidity when the market was rising through Monday, and later into the week it's loosened up a little bit. And we closed into the end of the market, as the market did, with a reasonably good day, a nice tight day. Liquidity had stayed tight, and I think we'll open back below as Bitcoin's pulled back a little bit, unless we get some more movement over Easter Sunday. Anyway, I'm sorry that was a slightly longer video. I hope you see how there is a correlation between the indexes, especially when we have low leverage rates at the moment, or very high prices to trade the indexes. We get this effect of liquidity goes to one, and stocks don't tend to move by themselves. They move much more in line, much higher correlation with the indexes, as there's just not enough liquidity going around at the moment, as there's a lot of reshoring of investments leaving the United States and going into foreign assets that they see as safer during these difficult times of changing tariffs. Anyway, I hope that you've found that interesting. I'll try and do a weekly update on Mara and how it's affected by the other markets. Thank you very much.